Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Master Investor, and happy St. Patrick's Day to everyone, if there's any Irish people in the audience. Today I'd like to talk to you about our pot of gold in Mexico, a pot of silver as well. So we have two assets. Our first asset was acquired in Mexico. We have 100% interest in the Zamora mine. The best place to find gold and silver is where gold and silver has been produced historically. Our property has 25 historic mines and prospects. The mines were mined artisanally by local Mexicans in the past. The ore was so rich that it was sent to a nearby mill for processing. Typically in our industry, you will, as previous speakers have indicated, you'll typically drill, you'll do exploratory work for a number of years before you go into production. That did not happen on our property. The ore was so rich that the local tenants previously had bypassed exploration, harvested the ore, followed the veins into the earth, and sent that to a nearby mill for processing. So what we're trying to do now is to take a little step back, do some exploratory work, have a better understanding of the grade and how big this property could be. In the last couple of years, we did a number of sampling campaigns, and we intersected a number of high-grade silver and gold areas on the property. Our best sample yielded 14.4 kilograms of silver per ton, and that actually happened to come with 20 grams of gold per ton. If you have either one of those, you're a happy mining executive. If you have both of those, it's very substantial. We listed the company in Canada last year. We went public on the Canadian Securities Exchange. Our symbol is AUAG. We raised $3.5 million prior to listing, and this was all done with private investors, people here in the UK, including Jim Mellon, who's one of our big shareholders. We issued common shares at 25 cents a share, and yesterday our share price closed at about 40 cents Canadian. We also have another asset that we recently acquired in Colombia, which I'll talk a bit more about later on. It's a sizable property, 65,000 hectares, southwest of Bogota, the capital. And again, the initial sampling results were quite encouraging. These are samples just on surface. We had high-grade copper, 16.3%, as well as gold, and we'll also talk about another element, scandium, that we just got results from a couple of days ago. So we'll talk about the Mexican property first. It's located in the state of Sinaloa in northwestern Mexico. The infrastructure is quite excellent for a mine at this location. You can go into either Culiacan, the state capital, or Mazatlan, which is a tourist resort, and then within an hour's drive, you're on the property. These are all very good highways, and our property is just off a major highway. So this is the Zamora property. All of that area in yellow is our concession. It's about 33 square kilometers long. And what we've done over the last couple of years is mapped out those 25 past-producing mines and prospects, and they all line up on a northeast-southwest axis over about 8 kilometers. So this is a substantially large zone. So what happened historically, the local Mexicans, when they mined the property, they followed the veins into the earth, and you can see those with your naked eye. However, those veins are hosted in what's called a brecciated stockwork system. And essentially that is little veinlets of silver and gold that you can't see with your naked eye. That's about 300 meters wide, and again, as I said, it's about 8 kilometers long. There's been no exploratory work done on this property, so we have no idea of the average grade. What I can tell you is that that area is mineralized, and now it's up to us to come back to the investors after doing some drilling and having an understanding of the grade as to how big this system could actually be. We also spent some time on this area here to the northwest called Aguamas. There's two past-producing mines, and we did some trenching and sampling over basically a kilometer. And again, we found gold on surface. There's not a lot of silver there, so it looks like there's another separate gold structure to the northwest of the main one. Again, these are some of the results we got from the trenching. And this is just going a meter below the surface. We were getting, our best results were about 13 grams of gold per ton over 3 meters. So basically, that's a signature that there's gold there. Gold doesn't rain down from the heavens, it's pushed up from the earth. So what we want to do now is do a bit more drilling on that side of the property and come back with an indication of what is really there. But again, the early indications are that there's something of substantial merit. And again, these are some of the samples that we took from the Aguamas area, which was the focus of our recent sampling and exploration campaigns. And on either end of that structure, we had just grab samples from the surface. We were getting a half an ounce of gold to an ounce of gold, which again is quite exceptional in terms of sampling results on surface. This is not drilling, this is not below the surface, it's right on surface. This gives you an idea of the ore that we have at Campanillas. Campanillas is the area on the northern part of our property that had yielded 14.4 kilograms of silver. And again, that was also a sample that we just took from surface. As I indicated, we've mapped out all of these mines, and they do line up on a nice 45-degree parallel structure. And all of that, we believe, is mineralized. Whenever we take samples in that brecciated material, we get silver, we get gold, and we get it of sufficiently decent grades. So I'd like to talk a bit about our Colombian opportunity for a second. Colombia is a jurisdiction that has been neglected by the mining industry for a number of years. You may know there was a bit of a civil war between the government and the FARC rebels, which ended about a year or two ago. As a result, a number of people, a number of companies like ours are starting to look at Colombia as a serious mining jurisdiction. The mining laws are very well developed. The country's at peace right now, and it's very, very rich geologically. We went in there looking for gold. One of my partners in Canada is from Colombia, very well connected with the mining industry, with government officials and so forth. We went down in February and March, and we took some samples on one property here called Metalor, which is about 75 kilometers southwest of Bogota, the capital. Again, we're looking for gold. And on the 6 samples we took over a 500 meter by 500 meter area, it's basically a riverbed, we were getting, on average, 21 grams of gold per ton. Again, that's exceptionally high grade gold. The one thing that was a surprise to us, however, when we did the samples, sent them to the lab for analysis, we come back with trace elements of a whole bunch of things, but the one thing that stood out was scandium. Now, scandium is a metal, a mineral that's not really well known. It has a very small market, but it's very, very expensive. It's element 21 on the periodic table, and it's used primarily as an alloy for aluminium. It strengthens aluminium, it prevents it from cracking, it's very heat resistant. So if you look at, say, airplanes, if you go to the airport and you see the turbines going and the blades, by putting scandium into that aluminium blade, it prevents it from cracking, which of course is essential for safety reasons, and it has a number of military applications. Scandium oxide would trade for about $4,000 a kilogram. Scandium metal trades for about $15,000 per kilogram. So these are exceptionally high prices because the supply of scandium is not very stable, is not very big. So what we have here, at least an indication, is of a significant scandium anomaly. This riverbed is surrounded by 2 mountains, and our geologist believes that those 2 mountains are the source of the scandium and the gold that are flowing down into this riverbed. Again, this is information we just received about a week ago. We have more results, more sampling results coming from the lab from this area, but these grades are very high. Some other scandium companies, of which there are a few, not many, have average grades of about 245 grams per ton. The grades here we're getting on surface without doing any drilling into the mountains or into the riverbed is about 6 times higher than that, substantially higher. So that gets us excited as a mining company. So we have a bit of work to do in Mexico. We have a bit of work to do in Colombia. We have a pretty ambitious timetable. We are going to finance the company very shortly, and we should have news out in that respect for investors. Right now, our share structure is pretty clean. We have about 36 million shares outstanding. I'd say 90% of that is held by people that myself and our team have brought into the company over the last 2 years. There's not that many warrants outstanding. When we did the financing prior to listing, it was all done with straight equity, no warrants, no debentures, none of that. So as a result, the shares outstanding is about 39 million on a fully diluted basis. Our share price closed at 40 cents Canadian on Friday. That gives us a market cap of about 16 million Canadian, or about 9 million British pounds. You should know that management, directors, insiders are strong believers in this company and the two projects we have, and we put our money where our mouth is. We own about 23% of the common equity of the company, and I think that's a very important point because it's difficult for me to ask you guys to put money in my company if I don't put my own money in. So we firmly believe in what we're doing. Our ticker is AUAG on the Canadian Securities Exchange, AU for gold, AG for silver. Didn't know about scandium at the time, so we left that out. Our management team is pretty diverse. Myself and Pierre, we're mining executives, entrepreneurs with a focus on finance. We have other people such as Salvador Brower. He ran Latin American operations for big mining companies, knows a lot about Colombia, knows a lot about various projects in Latin America. Marc Filion ran a big fund in Quebec. Rick Whitaker, he ran a $3 billion sustainable development fund for the federal government in Canada. Jun He has worked on various mining projects all over Africa. And Jacques Arsenault is our CFO. He's a CPA, and he's been involved with a number of public companies in Canada. Our geologist, Joel Skudnik, is quite an exceptional guy. He's the reason why we found these deposits in Mexico. And I'll just go right to a visual here. This is the Campanillas portal right here, where we found that 14.4 kilograms per ton of silver. He's wearing a mask because this is basically a bat cave. And when he first went in, he sank into basically a meter of bat droppings, and the ammonia nearly killed him, nearly passed him out. So he has to wear a mask, and whenever he calls us with that mask on, he sounds like Darth Vader, which is a little disturbing sometimes. But despite the bat situation, he went in, broke through the wall, and that's where we found that 14.4 kilogram sample, and it's thanks to him, his tenacity, and his drive that we're here today. I'd like to thank you all for your time, and we are at booth number 6162 if you want to come by and talk to us later on. Thank you very much.